Hey people, it's Friday, September the 25th, and it's 12:18 p.m. and it's a very pleasant sunny day, rather warm. I'd say in the mid-20s Celsius. And right now I'm walking along Finch Avenue West. And I'll be walking through the Jane-Finch area. Which, as you may know, is a pretty infamous neighborhood in Toronto. And I've actually never walked through the neighborhood before ever. I've driven through it a few times. It's really far out in the city. It's in the northwestern part of Toronto, in North York, the former borough of North York. And it's almost right at the northern border of the city of Toronto, because the next major street north of Finch Avenue is Steeles Avenue, and that's the northern boundary of the city of Toronto. All this construction you're seeing is for the new Finch West LRT line. It's just getting underway. It's basically one huge construction zone all the way up to Keele Street, which is where I got off the subway at Keele, at Finch West Station, which is at Keele and Finch. I heard that the new Finch West LRT line was getting underway, but I wasn't expecting it to be such a major construction zone already. Now, this area of Toronto was built up mostly in the 1960s to early 1970s. Yeah, starting, I'd say, in the early 60s to the early 70s. And it was built as a sort of a high-density community with lots of apartments, as you can see. And it was also developed to be one of the higher concentrations of public housing, a much higher concentration than the city as a whole. So then over time, the neighborhood sort of developed a bit of a reputation for poverty and crime, and kind of took hold through the 70s, and it's kind of remained the same way ever since. It's a really multicultural neighborhood. It's people from every part of the world living here. I'd say starting in the 1990s, this area started getting a lot of negative press due to issues with gang violence and shootings. And it was actually, you know, no joke. It was pretty bad throughout the 90s and into the early 2000s. But I think since then it's really died down a lot. I don't think it's as bad as it was. I think there are plenty of other parts of Toronto now that are, you know, like comparable to Jane-Finch in terms of issues with gang violence, guns and whatnot. But the reputation persists because those kinds of things don't just go away. So the reality of Jane-Finch today is probably not, you know, how it actually is compared to how people think it is. Not that there still aren't problems. I mean, there are. Just this morning, actually, saw on the news that there was a shooting just last night on Driftwood Avenue, which is just up ahead a bit. So we still have a little ways to go. We're heading west on Finch towards Jane. So as I said, this is the first time I've walked through here. So I'm just kind of looking around myself right now. And it's not that I've avoided this area, it's just that it's so far out in the city, away from the downtown area. I just have no reason to really ever come here. The subway ride here from Queen Station downtown was about 40 minutes. I wonder how far down this construction is going, all the way to Jane. So yeah, the housing around here is a mixture of these high-rise apartment buildings, lots of low-rise townhouse type complexes, and then just pretty typical suburban style bungalows on the residential streets. There's lots of like cul-de-sacs and crescents and things like that. (1960s) style suburban housing. And from what I know, lots of the incidents that do happen in the neighborhood don't so much happen right directly on Finch Avenue or right directly on Jane Street. They happen more in the complexes that are kind of tucked away off the main streets. Got some good shade here. There you can see an airliner. We're pretty close to Pearson International Airport, which is just over the northwestern boundary in neighboring Mississauga. I think about a quarter of the housing units in the area are public housing, compared to like less than 10% in the city as a whole. You can see suburban strip mall stores dominate this area, being mostly a post-war type of development here. You can see the Palisades, which is the tallest apartment building in the neighborhood. Imagine things look a little grungier than normal right now because of all this construction. Here's the Jane-Finch Mall. Never been in there, obviously, but From what I hear, it's fairly mediocre by mall standards. Seems to have everything you need though. There's even a Popeyes. I know someone who would be happy about that. So here we are at the intersection of Jane and Finch. This is what all the hype is about. And just walk a little ways down Jane Street, heading south. Jane goes all the way down through the city to Bloor. It's a pretty long street. And most of its length is pretty similar to what you see here until you get into the older sections of the city further south. Then it takes on a more traditionally urban appearance. But yeah, this street is known for its many high-rise apartments. And the buildings kind of vary from what I hear too. Some buildings are fairly decent places to live, and right next door can be another building that is very rough and in bad shape, and just not a place most people would be happy to live in at all. And the thing is, they kind of look all the same from the outside, but on the inside can be a whole different story. It's a pretty good discount grocery store. There's one near my neighborhood too. I go to sometimes. So all in all, the neighborhood doesn't really look much different from lots of other neighborhoods in the outer boroughs of Toronto. All throughout North York, Scarborough, Northern Etobicoke, parts of East York. I think at the next major intersection I'm going to hang a left. Which I believe is Driftwood Avenue, which I mentioned earlier, where there was a shooting that took place last night. I'm not sure though what part of Driftwood, because Driftwood is a long street that kind of winds all through the neighborhood. This is a good place to live if you like to watch jets flying around. There's a pretty significant Vietnamese community in this neighborhood. Lots of Vietnamese businesses. So it's a large Caribbean community too, as well as African community, as in from Africa, immigrants. Immigrants make up by far like the majority of this neighborhood. Because the rents are fairly cheap here by Toronto standards. See, some of these older low-rise complexes do look to be in pretty rough shape from what I can see over there. This is the site of a new development, which is nice to see. So I'd see all of these apartment buildings all around here are in the range of $40,000 to 50 years old. So this is actually Yorkwoods we're on right now. Driftwood is just up ahead. The new Line 1 subway extension through the area has definitely been a big help to the residents. It used to take forever to get downtown on the bus and having to transfer often to another bus and then to a subway. Now it's just a straight shot downtown from Finch West Station. We'll just follow Driftwood back up to Finch Avenue. See the Palisades again, dominating the neighborhood. I remember years ago, back in the 90s, early 90s, or yeah, I think early 90s, Tom Green, the famous Canadian wacky comedian guy, if you remember him, before he was known as a prankster type guy. He was in a rap group called Organized Rhyme. And I remember they shot a video up here in front of the Palisades for the song Check the OR, which is sort of a comedic type rap song. We are at the back side of the Jane-Finch Mall. And here we are just about back at Finch Avenue, which I will end the video at. So yeah, looks like I survived my brief little tour through Jane and Finch. Not that I thought I wouldn't. But a lot of people seriously are afraid of this area. Just because of all the hype and media attention. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, by all means, please hit that like button. And please subscribe, comment, share, tell your friends. All of the above. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos.
Yeah.
I post a few times a week. Keep checking back because, as always, I will continue. I'll catch you next time.